Hi, everybody. Warm welcome to you. I'm kind of hoping that this afternoon, for our tea time at the Ritz, that we're sitting in an air-conditioned room because my goodness me, is it hot. Really, really hot. I think it's easing off a little bit now, but it's been pretty much unbearable for the last 2 or 3 days in London. Temperatures up in the low 30 degrees, 32, 33. And my principal concern in terms of clothes certainly has been what on earth can I wear to stay cool. So I've chosen a linen top from Hope Fashion, and it's quite loose, which helps. So I really want to talk to you about that today, about fit, clothes and fit, because I heard something recently, quite an interesting radio programme, and it's really about a revolution that is going to happen in the next few years, so much so that the way that we currently buy clothes and how they fit us is going to change dramatically. And I, for one, my ears pricked up because I just thought, ooh, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to listen more to this. So I've kind of distilled the essence of what was said on that programme by somebody called Emma Hayes, really, really interesting, in order to share it with you. And it's really about ensuring that the clothes that you buy actually fit you. And therefore look the best that they possibly can. I've got some hints and tips at the end for what you can do now, but this is really about projecting into the future and what might be happening. Now, this go back to it again and again and again. This period of this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic that we're living through, is going to accelerate a lot of things. And one of the things that it occurs to me is going to be accelerated is where and how we buy our clothes. Now, I don't know about you, but not in any of the foreseeable future do I intend to get onto public transport and go into shops to look and try on clothes. I very much doubt that until we have a vaccine and everybody in the country is vaccinated and there's a high degree of immunity in our country, am I going to trust that process in case I actually pick up the dreaded COVID? So obviously that throws you back to buying online, but buying clothes online has always been extremely challenging. It's challenging because I don't know whether you've noticed, but they always show you the clothes on a very slim, one could almost say stick thin model who's very tall. So they'll say underneath in very small lettering, model size 8, 5'10". So this is a tiny, slim person, classic model size and shape. And what you're looking at looks amazing on her, but I'm 5'7". I am not a size 8. I vary between a size 12 and a size 14, depending on all sorts of things, which I'll also talk about in a minute or two. And obviously, whatever she's showing me won't look like that on me because my body is a completely different shape from hers. In fact, this reminded me of when we were buying bridesmaids' dresses for my younger daughter's wedding. My older daughter was going to be bridesmaid. Now, she happens to be 6'1", so she's obviously extremely tall, and she's very slim. She's got that kind of androgynous body shape where she has slim hips, quite a small bust, and she's not got a particularly thin waist, so she's pretty much straight up and down, but she looks amazing in clothes. Everything that we tried on when we were looking for bridesmaids' dresses to fit 3 very different body shapes, she looked great in. So we knew that whatever we chose would work for her. We just had to find something that would also work for one of the other bridesmaids who was about 5'4", also very slim, but kind of petite and tiny, and the one who was kind of in between the two, about 5'6" or 7, again about a size 12, but clearly to find 3 matching dresses that we weren't going to have made, we were buying them off the peg, was a challenge to say the least. And it actually highlights just how difficult it is when we're buying online for clothes which are 100% standard measurements, and they're standard what's called average measurements. But how many women are standard and average? As I'm going to point out to you, very, very few. There is a huge, huge problem to buying online from the point of view of not being able to actually try the garment on without buying it first. And then when you get it home, you can see what the cut is, you can see what the shape is. And of course, when you then put it on, you can see whether it actually works for you or not. Now, if you go out to shop in for real, you can take a whole load of things into the changing room and you can very quickly dismiss all of those clothes that don't work, and only buy the ones that actually fit you. When you're buying online, you tend to have to buy all of those things, get them home, and then see which ones fit you, which apparently is what the younger generation does all the time, with the result that one very large retail fashion manufacturer, they have a returns rate for their online sales of 78%. Now think of the waste that involves, both ecologically, because some of those things that are returned end up in landfill, but also the time that's wasted, the hassle factor of having to go to the post office and post it back, the cost, the packaging, everything about it, the palaver of returning those things is enormous. And of course, some people don't even bother. They try it on, think, it's not great, but perhaps I'll keep it anyway. Maybe it'll come in handy for something or other. Shove it in the back of their wardrobe, and it never gets to see the light of day again. I have a few things in my wardrobe like that, and it's exacerbated by buying online. So it's not easy. The other thing is changes to body shape over time. Now, as I've aged, I have to admit that my body is not what it once was. This is something that's not at all recognised within the fashion industry. Very few clothes are cut to fit an older body. So what do I mean by that? Well, in my 50s and 60s, I don't think my body changed very much at all. And it was certainly only until I got into my late 60s that the real changes happened. Excuse me, I'm still roughly the same size, i.e. I will take sometimes a 12 or a 14. I'm kind of like medium in most clothes. And my weight hasn't varied very much in that time at all. However, my body shape has changed quite a lot. It's much rounder and softer, even though I do quite a lot of exercise. My arms are rounder, my stomach is rounder, my waist is definitely thicker, my bust has dropped, it's lower. My ankles and legs, I think, are puffier and more swollen. Certainly in this weather, my goodness me, do my ankles tend to swell up. So my body with age is softening. Do you remember Butterflies with Ria, who was absolutely wonderful in that programme? I loved her to bits. And she sort of had an on-off relationship with somebody called Leonard, but she was in fact, still very much married to her dentist husband, who was played by Geoffrey Palmer. And I remember Ria in Butterflies toying with the idea of having a relationship with Leonard. And then she said to him one day, "The thing is, Leonard, I look fine with my clothes on, but when I take them off, there's been an avalanche." She was actually quite young when she said that, but I do feel that there's been a bit of an avalanche with my body. It's definitely moving south rather than staying put, let's put it that way. However, there are some really, really exciting things in prospect. So I'm listening to this Radio 4 programme with somebody called Emma Hayes, and I started listening because I could hear that she was saying that a revolution in sizing is coming. She made the point that for some very rich people, fitting clothes is about couture. It's about having your own garment made. The fashion designer comes up with a beautiful design, you look at it and you say, "Oh, I'd like that, please. They then map that garment onto your body, and they make you, at great expense, a bespoke version of that beautiful design. So if you're very, very rich, in your wardrobe, you only have clothes that are made to measure and to fit your particular body. Obviously, for a lot of women, I don't know whether you've been seeing the Great British Sewing Bee. I've watched every episode, and the final was actually on Wednesday. Was it on Wednesday evening? Yeah, I think the final was Wednesday evening. It was brilliant. So what those three finalists in there were doing was making clothes specifically for a model, taking their measurements and then making sure that whatever they did fitted perfectly. So again, if you're a dab hand with your sewing machine, you're a dressmaker, you can have your own bespoke wardrobe. You could perhaps slightly less couture, but go to somebody who's a dressmaker, and they can make clothes for you. But again, it's quite a laborious process. It's also quite it's not cheap, even if you do that. So I think the solution for most of us is that we go out, we buy things that are on the rails, we try them on. Maybe we can make small alterations ourselves. I mean, I can certainly take up hems, I can shorten sleeves, I can do the odd nip and tuck, which I have done on clothes that I've bought, but most of the time I try and find things that have an approximation of fit for my body, but with great degree of frustration. And I have to say there are lots of things that I might take into a changing room and think, nah, can't work with that, doesn't really work at all on my body, or it's just incredibly uncomfortable to wear. The waistband really is too tight, and it's fatal, isn't it, to go into a changing room and buy clothes that would fit you if you were perhaps 2 or 3 pounds heavier, 4 or 5 pounds heavier. I've certainly, when I was very much younger, have bought things home thinking, now when I lose that half a stone that I want to lose, that will look lovely. I never did lose the half a stone, and it never did look lovely. So we know that bodies come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You can have a big bust and narrow shoulders. You can have a big bust and wide shoulders and maybe very tall. You can have a bust that sticks out right at the front, or you can have one that kind of spreads a bit under your armpits and maybe even spreads a bit round your back. We can have waists that vary from, thick to stick thin. We can have lengths from nape of neck to waist that vary enormously. Some people are long-bodied, some people are short-bodied. And then, of course, there's the length of your limbs. So for some, with some clothes, sleeves are too long, some sleeves are too short, and then we've got hem length and so on and so forth. So the exciting new development is that manufacturers, spurred on by two things, the advance in digital technology and the horrific rate of returned garments that come back to them, mostly because of poor fit. The developments are that we will in future have a very, very much more bespoke service when it comes to the fit of mass-produced clothes. So it won't be about couture, it won't be about a dressmaker, it won't be about making our own. It will actually be about digital technology mapping our bodies, taking many, many more measurements than we currently consider, which are really only the bust, the waist and the hips. And by mapping your body and having personal measurements that are true for you, you will then be able to buy clothes that you know will fit you better. So there'll be such a thing as curated fashion. So you'll be able to download, you'll have your measurements, which will be part of what you know about yourself. It'll be within your system, and you will load that onto a website, and you'll say, okay, this is the size and shape I am. What have you got that's likely to fit me? And you might then perhaps put those measurements out there and say, which brands are going to suit me best? I mean, how brilliant would that be? Just knowing that you're going to be buying from those brands that work with your body shape and body measurements. There's also going to be virtual fitting rooms. So instead of having to wait for the garments to come to your house, you're going to be able to put your body measurements in, and then that garment will be mapped onto your measurements, and you'll be able to see what it would look like if you were wearing it without having to buy it first and then send it back if it doesn't actually work for you. I mean, all of these are incredibly exciting. We'll possibly have an avatar of ourselves that will be representing us, and we'll be able to take that avatar online and hey presto, suddenly all those fit problems are solved. I mean, Emma Hayes, who was on this programme, she was saying that certainly within the next 10 years, we'll look back on the fact that currently we just use one number when we order a size. So we order something in a 12 or a 14 or a medium or a large or whatever. That will all be gone. And in future, we'll look back in 10 years' time to now and say, oh my goodness, did we really only have one option when it came to sizing for clothes? So something really to look forward to. In the meantime, if you want clothes to fit a bit better, what should you do? What should you look for? So here are some tips for you. The first is for trousers anyway, because bottoms can stick out or be quite flat. Hips can be wide or narrow. You can have quite a sticky out bottom, but very narrow hips. One of the solutions for that, especially when you're older, is stretchier fabrics. I'm actually wearing a pair of Massimo Duty trousers at the moment, and they're quite lightweight. They're part of a trouser suit, in fact. And they have got some level of elastane or something in them, so they're slightly stretchy. So they're great because you're likely to get less bottom bagging if you wear slightly stretchy trousers. Obviously, if you wear exercise leggings like Sweaty Betty's, like I've been doing over lockdown, then you know that they're going to fit like a glove. The second thing is bras. Please, please, can I beg you, if you've never been for a bra fitting, to when it's safe to do so. I know it's not safe at the moment, but when it is safe to do so, to get yourself fitted for a bra. I used to wear a 36 C cup for most of my life, and then I went to have a bra fitting, and they told me I was a 34 D cup. So I got narrower back than I thought and fuller breasts. So I now buy 34D cup bras, and they fit me beautifully, and they make a real difference to the line of any dresses that I wear or tops that I wear that are fitted. The other thing is, make sure that the elastic on your bras are tight. When you've washed your bra, tighten the elastic back up again, because it will have come loose, so you hoist your bosom up as much as you can. Mine are going south, as I said. There's been an avalanche, but you can do an awful lot with your bra straps to ensure that your bra is actually pulling your boobs up as much as possible. Do think about having hems and sleeves shortened. A nice sleeve length on for an older arm is bracelet length, so not too long, but also not too short. And you can do quite a lot with your own needle and thread. I certainly can do that by hand, in fact, and I can also hem by hand. I'm perfectly capable of doing that. And then think about shoulders, because very subtle, I'm not talking about great thick things, but really subtle shoulder padding can make a big difference to the line of a top, because it lifts it slightly. It can make your shoulders slightly more square if your shoulders have become a bit rounded, and can really make a difference to the line of a top or a dress. So they're just some of the things that I would suggest, and maybe find somebody who's really good who can alter clothes for you. If you can find the right person, they are worth their weight in gold. So I do hope you found that interesting. I think we're on the edge of a brave new world when it comes to fit, and I, for one, welcome that with open arms. I can't think of anything nicer than actually being able to buy clothes, however I buy them, online or in a shop, that will actually fit me and will look good. So let's say exciting, brave new world that we're on on the threshold of. Let me just remind you, please register for our Zoom chat with the wonderful, wonderful Annette Badlands, which is on Monday. You just have to buy a ticket for the event. We'll put that link for you into emails onto Super Troopers underneath this video. It's a link to a website called Eventbrite. You must register on that and get a ticket. We'll then send you the links to the Zoom conversation. It's free. Obviously, we're not charging you for the ticket, but it's first come, first served. So we are limiting the numbers, but we will video it, and you will be able to see that video next Tuesday in the normal tea time at the Ritz. So that's something to look out for and look forward to. And I'm going to round off by wishing you an extremely happy weekend. I don't think it's going to be quite so hot this weekend. I think it's going to break up a bit and the temperature's going to come down. And actually, I'm not too sorry about that. This is too hot for me, I have to say. But I'm looking forward to the weekend and relaxing. So I hope you have a relaxing weekend too. And I shall very much look forward to seeing you, hopefully live, for the Zoom call with Annette Badlands on Monday. So do register for that. Bye-bye.